This is an important update to the Revelation timeline. Please excuse the sound. I'm just going to do it like this. Michael Yon has some information that is really confirming what the Lord has been giving me about how to prepare in the Revelation timeline. And the four horses, if you don't understand it, please just go through my videos or go get the DVDs at discoverchurch.online or at discover.org.au and update yourself. But anyway, we've got to keep moving and building on it. Who's Michael Yon? He's a former Green Beret. He's a war correspondent. He was in Iraq. He reported on stuff, and in different theaters of war that clearly showed the narrative that we were told by mainstream media was incorrect, was inaccurate. He's traveled to over 100 countries, written different books. He's in Florida. And he's been recently going down to the Darien Gap. For those who don't know, there's a highway that goes from Alaska to Panama continuously, one road, Highway 1. But then there's a gap of around 60 miles from Panama to Colombia, and then the road picks up again from Colombia, goes down to Argentina. So this is the caravan route. This is where the weaponized immigration is happening. And he's down there, and he can see, hey, the Chinese are down there. The Taliban's down there, Hezbollah's down there, coming from Venezuela. Clearly, it's a weaponized immigration to change the election, to change the demographics of the nation. But it's also concerning, as I saw when I was in El Salvador and Honduras. You know, I've gone to 50 countries, so when you go to enough countries, you get a perspective that even if you're a well-versed Bible teacher, you're just not going to get it. You're going to have such an American-centric worldview if you just live in America and focus on America. People like him, he's gone to double the countries I've gone to. He speaks stuff that I'm saying and that I'm seeing because we can see it coming. China's paid for this $30 million library, and all it is it's a propaganda brainwashing agency where you go in, let's say, kids go to libraries these days. You think they go to read, like back in my day, we go to search for books. Well, they wouldn't need to do that anymore. So they go in there to go play games. So in order to get credit to play games, what they have to do is they have to read books. What kind of books would they have to read? Well, they have to read books that the Chinese Communist Party approve of. So they're getting indoctrinated, and China's slowly taking over the world, winning territory, winning hearts and minds, building bridges, building roads, putting stations for their own Chinese illegal immigrants to come into the States so that if they lose their papers, don't have money, they're supplying all this. That's what Michael Yon is seeing and claiming. Now, what's important to us about Revelation is what he's projecting, and he's projected a few different things that have been accurate, right? He predicted that the Nord Stream pipeline would be eliminated. And he didn't say bomb, but something's going to happen to it. Why? Because he could see that the end game for evil people, and this is one of the most evil things that you can do to humanity, is to engineer a famine, right? Mao Zedong did it in China. They do it. This is something that they have done before. And the way to do it is the way they did it in Sri Lanka. The way they're doing it, preparing it for it right now around the world is they'll control energy, they'll control transportation, they'll control ports, they'll control fertilizers, anything that has to do with food, they're coming after. And you can see that. It is now illegal to build houses with gas. You know, the new houses in Victoria, Australia have no gas. It's not allowed. It's illegal. So they're coming after energy because ultimately they're coming after food, and stopping the food is the fastest way to depopulate the world. See, God sees us as solutions. God sees us as the only creatures in the world made in his image and likeness. So anything that's going to be solved is going to be solved with our help. And that's been proven in my book, Trump's Unfinished Business. I give you examples of that, even great examples of climate change. Like if you really want the world to turn green, the animals not to die, and the humans to live in harmony with nature, every solution has never come from a monkey or a cow or an elephant. In fact, they are just as destructive. Many times, the animals are just as destructive as humans. But humans can coordinate and plan and help the environment to work and to regrow very well. So a lot of people, a lot of kids would know the United States is greener now than back in the days when Native Americans or American Indians or Indigenous Americans, what do you want to call, uh, back in their day, they just practiced slash and burn. They raped and pillaged their own land, and then they did it to their enemies. But these days, America is very green because if you grow trees and you replace them, you can sell them. So there's incentive financially in a free, honest trading society, free market society, to not rape your resources, but to continue to replenish your resources. It just makes sense. Anyway, that's a lot of economics and history. We don't need to do that right now. But what he's saying is he can see China strategically taking over the Netherlands. The Netherlands has the largest port in Europe. It has, I think, the greatest gas field for Europe, other than, I would say, Russia. And Russia has been cut off because they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. So all these things are happening to do what? To engineer a famine, a global famine. And a famine is not pretty. It's not nice. And there's not a lot you can do. Um, there's not a lot you can do when there's a famine. You can stock up on all long life food. People will come and not only get your food, they'll come and kill you and they'll come and eat you. So if you're alone, it ain't going to work. So for all the Christians that have been deceived to thinking that you don't need a church family, you're going to feel the pinch. And I predict that it's going to be no more than, now it's a little bit less than 3 years. Well, we had 3 years when I first started telling people the black horse is going to come. We're in already the red horse. It's clear. You might not understand. You want to argue with me about Revelation 4 says that come up hither, therefore the church is not here. I get all that, okay? I mean, it's stock charismatic Pentecostal theology. We all studied it. I'm not even negating it. I'm saying it's like 90% correct, but you got to update your timeline. We're in the horses, and the horses are not in the tribulation. You got to go study that yourself. What I want to do today is I want to feature Michael Yon and show a little bit of his video, and then try to get Christians to get stimulated and think, why did God create the church? Why did he send all these epistles that talk about the leadership of the church? You know, it's so clear. He appointed leaders, elders, bishops, deacons, the presbyteros, the diakonos, these hierarchy and structures were fully in existence in the church in Jerusalem, in the church in Rome, in the church in Alexandria, in the church in Antioch. It's absolutely undeniable history. It's not made up by me as a pastor because I want to be a pastor. I never dreamt of being a pastor. But God has instituted the church. He loves the church. And he also loves, by the way, he loves to reassert his authority back on the earth. So the gospel program isn't just me. I have a great relationship with God through the blood of Jesus, and that's it. But we have to come back into become under the authority of God, and God delegates his authority through angels and men, and that's how he rules the universe. If he wanted to do it himself, he wouldn't have created any of us. So we have to come back into line with that. And when the global famine comes, it's not going to be theory. It's not going to be theory. You will not survive by yourself. It doesn't matter how many bullets and guns you have. You cannot defend when a whole mob comes. And this is history. This is history of famine. The government will come after farmers. They will come after anybody that's got food. And they come with bigger guns, and they come with more people. And the mob will come with more people than you have. So what's your community? Think about that. Okay? You have a little, rinky-dink home church. I don't know. What do you have? Less than 10 people? You need a community. You need a group of people who know, they'll know plumbing, they'll know fixing stuff, they'll know dentistry, somebody's got to know weapons, somebody's got to know medicine, somebody's got to know how to grow food. You're not going to get that with you and your 5 friends or even 10 friends. You need a community. That's what church is. Every community needs a head, needs a structure. So for all the Christians that have been deluded and deceived into thinking they don't need a church, you're in for a rude awakening. It's going to be a shock, and nothing that you do individually can prepare for what's coming. That's what I want to warn people about. And I think that's why God has had us focus on, okay, we have a Goshen in Australia. We want to look at Goshens in America. We may possibly want to look at Goshens in Asia, in Latin America. Why not? Why not? And how are we doing this? Because we have a community. Discover Church online is the biggest international community, or at least the oldest international community. We were avant-garde. We had online church before the lockdown. We were the first church in the world that accepted crypto. Why? Because we knew things were getting decentralized. The trend is decentralization. The trend is digitalization. The trend is going towards the millennium. Right? In the millennium, spiritual things become more real than physical things. Even the money that you touch isn't as real as the money you cannot touch and cannot see. That's reality. We're going towards the eternity, and so we're beginning to feel the effects and the characteristics of the next age coming into this age as it's closing. So, if you believe in end time, what do? Just do nothing? No. You have to share your faith. You have to be in a community. You have to be practical. And I think within our community, we have people in all different nations who are attracted to our ministry because they believe in Bible prophecy. They believe that there should be something. We're not panicking, but we think, hey, you know what? The clock is ticking. We got to get to know each other. We got to know who's who. We got to work together. And we weed out all the scammers and all that because we have a subscription base. So that's why it's there. So I think if you come and join, you're going to benefit. You're going to give something, but I think you're going to get something. Maybe I can say far more than you have given. $20 a month, $50 a month. It's absolutely nothing. Even $100. It's not your tithe. It's not even your best offering. And it's just to come into a good community where we do what God said, which is not forsake the assembling of ourselves together. If you can go into a physical church, all right, go. There'll be times when you can't go. You've been places you can't go. I've been there. You've been there. There are people whose job just takes them traveling all the time. So they're not going to be they're not going to be where a Bible-believing, prophecy-teaching church is. And so you're not alone. Discover Church Online is there. So please have a listen to what Michael Yon has to say. And some of you may have never heard of him. So this is a bit of a plug to help you realize even people who are not Christian. I don't believe he's Christian. I don't have any indication he is. Even non-Christians are hearing the same thing that the Lord's been giving me about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The white horse has been out of the gate. The red horse is currently running. You're going to see wars and terrorism, especially after April 8th. Give it 40 days of repentance. That's what Jonah said to Nineveh. And then you're going to see from our Pentecost on, you're going to see all sorts of havoc. And of course, the October surprise, something that would try to disrupt the election. Of course, that's coming. And then Chris Reed said he saw something all the way up to July 11th. Why 11? 11 is, the number of chaos. So I would confirm that at least numerically, these are things that seem to be revealed by the Lord. But then America would have a rebirth. That's really important. That means that those who are ready and those who are thinking about, well, how would we set up a more Christian, a more biblical culture and society and government, we may have the chance, we may have the opportunity to be called upon and say, hey, this is what God would advise. This is what the Bible would say. So we try to do it our own way. It hasn't been working. So we're going to do it God's way, and that's going to work. Anyway, God has been warning us. The black horse is coming. That's famine. That's a spike in inflation, oil prices. All of that's coming. So please now listen to Michael Yon, what he has to say in this interview.
How'd you get that right? Did you have something to do with it? No, that's what I think was going to happen.
This is that article out there?
No, I'll just put it like on Twitter and that sort of thing.
So we can find it on Twitter?
Oh, yeah. You can find it on interviews that I did. Why was I even at BASF? You know what I mean? Yeah. Twice. Yeah. Because that's where the Haber-Bosch press. Okay, so now last March I was in Netherlands again. They had elections, and then I went to Groningen gas fields. That's the biggest gas field in Europe, is in Netherlands. And I was publishing last March, April, and so I think they're going to close Groningen gas field. And people are like, you're crazy. They're not going to close that. They closed it. It's now closed. Why did I get it right? Not by going through every little fact and trying to figure out if he's right, she's right. Skip past all that nonsense. You'll get confused. It's confusing. What does the paradigm predict? That they're trying to put us into famine. If I'm trying to put us into famine, I'm going to start turning off all those natural gas switches. I'm going to reduce the nitrogenous fertilizers. Now, going into famine, there's many things that can cause famine, that can lead to famine. There's different types of famine. For instance, you don't really, interestingly, I found in a 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica, people can find this. It's a 1910, 1911, I think, is that edition. I found it in a friend's home in Texas. And I went right to F for famine. I wanted to see what they were saying about it. This is before Haber-Bosch process was we're talking 1911. Remember, 1914 is when that actually started. And this article is very well written, but it goes and it talks about, well, the big famines are probably over. There probably won't be any more big ones now because we have faster ships, bigger ships, these sorts of things, bigger trains, faster trains. But what they were wrong about was how evil man can be. Because the biggest famines have been man-made, like by Stalin and the Holodomor, like by Mao, by so many of these famines. The 1845 to 1854 famine in Ireland was not all about the fungus and the black potatoes, right? A lot of it was caused by the English cutting them off. Oftentimes when you get into famine, all these other conditions happen, and then your enemy exploits cuts off your ports.
So with the famine that's coming, what do you advise people do to get ready for it? Well,
one thing's for sure, it's not going to be easy, and especially if you live in a major city. One Dutch man that survived the Hunger Winter, that was the Hunger Winter of 1944-45, he said, it doesn't matter if you have a rifle because they're going to come at you with, 10, 20 men with rifles, right? You're not going to defend your food with a rifle. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to be prepared in some ways. One of the things you'll find in famines is people hide food. Actually, the KGB seems to have been a derivative of actually Stalin looking for people hiding food, believe it or not, in Ukraine, in the Holodomor. It's interesting because people found so many clever ways to hide food. They would have a garden that really doesn't produce much, but underneath it, that's how they cover up the burying, or the digging and that sort of thing. But and actually, the bottom line is everybody is going to have a different solution. I mean, if you live in Manhattan, I think you're crazy. I mean, because straight up. I mean, what are you going to do in Manhattan when everybody's hungry? I mean, people go to cannibalism within 2 weeks, easy. Not everybody. Some people starve to death and never do it, but others go straight to it instantly. And a lot of these people coming in, by the way, through the Darien Gap, I mean, these are people that come from places where they still do. By the way, cannibalism does still exist on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. I assure you, I don't have to assure you, you know that. But a lot of these people coming in are not quite the same as the people, your neighbor. And the moment they get hungry, they're coming into your house. Right, or the moment almost anybody gets hungry, they're going to be coming into your house.
Yeah, once desperation hits.
Everybody's going to have their own solution, but it's going to have to be community based. I mean, one of the things one retired military man told me down in Texas, he started to arrange his community around his church. He went to church and he started taking an inventory of everybody's skills, like what do you know how to do roofs, you know how to do plumbing, you know how to do electrical, whatever, right? So that way everybody knows who knows how to do what, and pulling them together as a community, working with radios, figuring out how to keep communication with each other and that sort of thing. All the stuff that would take to make a small community, right? And one older woman, she's a widow. She's like, I don't have any skills. I just raise my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. He's like, yeah, if you raise that many generations of kids, you got a lot of skills. And he's like, no, just tell me how did you raise them? She's like, well, I can food. And he's like, that's it. All right, you're in charge of canning operations. So what I want you to do is tell me what you need, tell me everything you need, and then I'll get it. I'll make it appear, and you start teaching the young people how to can.
So set up a community.
That's right. And just like everybody has something, if their heart's in the right place, they have a job, right? Then it takes the leaders, obviously, to pull them together and get everybody, working in their right ways and that sort of thing. But you're not going to make it through without a community, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have to be able to defend yourself, obviously. But we have a predatory government. Another thing that I've noticed in famines, and this is important, is the governments always go after the farmers. They and every famine I've read about, they always blame the farmers too. They always say, "Oh, it's the farmers, it's the Amish people's fault for something." You know what I mean? It's whoever's fault. They're the ones gouging you for prices or whatever, right? And then they come and then they take over those facilities, and nobody knows how to farm like the farm. That's one of the things I wanted to say. Finish what I was thinking about the Dutch. A lot of those farmers who have been farming or fishing that land or water for so many years, they know exactly when to plant. Like, when the last snow melts in that little crease over there, that's when we plant. It's a very local knowledge. And that's one of the ways they get such high production from the land. First of all, it's partly scientific, increased, scientific methods, but they know their patch of turf very well. When the crickets come out, it's time to do X. You know what I mean? It's but if you take them away from that land, they're not going to be as good a farmer if you put them in Kansas. They're still going to be a good farmer, I'm sure, but you know what I'm saying.
I do.
They got to fight their own terrain.
So, for the people that are listening that we've just scared the hell out of with the famine, best thing is for them to build community.
Build community, definitely. And you need a way to defend yourself. And again, if you live in a city, I don't know what advice to give you other than get out.
Yeah.
Would that cause the cities to empty out? Look what's happened. Look who's moving into New York. People that don't speak English, they don't even know how to flush a toilet. I assure you, I spend most of my life in these other countries, and some fish don't mix well in the same aquarium. There's cultures that just don't go well together, right?
Yeah.
Bottom line, you put some sort of fish with the goldfish, bye-bye goldfish.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen.
Well, get out of the city. But
I hate to say it, but that's what I would do.
For many years, I've been advising people to prepare by having at least a month's worth of food and water. And I've tried several long life food products. And I've chosen one that I think is the most organic that I can find for myself and my family. And it's called New Manna. So if you're looking for long life food, it's called New Manna. And we have a very dedicated link for this, newmanna.com/Pastor Steve. All right? Their tubs will last 25 years on the shelf, and I not only store it, but because I find it's good quality and it's organic, I actually eat it when my fresh produce run low. So if you use the promo code Pastor Steve, you will get 10% discount. New Manna is owned and operated by Christians who support this ministry and other ministries when you purchase it. So that's why I'm willing to let you know that's what I use, right? newmanna.com/Pastor Steve. I hope that will help you to prepare at least for a month, at least have something. If the internet goes down, the grid goes down, something unexpected happens, at least a month. That will keep you going. Then you can decide what to do. You're going to bunker down, then you need more. You're going to move, then you got some supply. All right? Okay, God bless you.